Welcome back to Life with the Spectrum. I'm your host, Gina Cavalli, and we are knee deep in Autism Awareness Month. And did you also know it's Military Child Month as well? I'm going to tell you why these two things have a lot in common as we continue to navigate this crazy journey we call life. I think all of us have run into families that have children with multiple diagnoses, not just autism. And some children require feeding tubes. Some children require other devices just to survive. Having them hooked up day after day, you might have a hard time finding a way to bond with them. Well, I found a gentleman that's making huge strides, and you'll understand why I said that word here when you meet him. His name is Kim Rooster Rossiter, and he is the founder and president of Ainsley's Angels. Welcome to the show, Rooster. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great. How's it going, Gina?
Oh, I'm so glad you're on the show. Rooster, you have an amazing story, and it really starts with Ainsley. Tell us about Ainsley's story and your story.
Oh gosh, man! You want to tell this story, and you have to be mindful of the time that you have. So I'm going to try my best to just say that. I have three children. My wife and I, my high school sweetheart, we have three children, and our middle-born child was Ainsley, and she came to us in 2003. And for the first 2 years, like everything about her was typical. It was exactly what you would expect for every child who is born typical and goes down that track. But at some point along the way, Mom's intuition kicked in and said, there are some things that she isn't doing that her older sister did. And we don't want to compare too much, but Mom's intuition is really strong.
And you were deployed at the time, weren't you?
I certainly was. I was in Iraq doing Marine Corps things during 2003. If you
Semper Fi.
Yes, rah. So if you're a history buff, then you know that that was a time in our country where we were heavily engaged. And as time went on, 2003 is when she was born, but then 2004 and 5 is when we started to be like, it's Mom's intuition. So that led to a series of tests, and about 24 months later, in 2007, we finally received a diagnosis that she was one of 7 people in America with something called infantile neuroaxonal dystrophy. Big mouthful. We just call it INAD. It's ugly. It's nasty. But ultimately, in the end, it is terminal, progressive. It takes away the body's ability to use its nerves because toxins build up on the nerves. Those toxins can't leave the body. That led the Marine Corps to make a decision to move me and my wife and family to Virginia. Because at this point, we have 3 children. We have done multiple deployments, and we needed some continuity of care. With the terminal diagnosis, they made some assumptions that Ainsley would be with us for another 3 years, and so it made sense to them to put me in this spot in Virginia. What they didn't know is Ainsley has this huge desire and drive to live, and she ultimately lived all the way until 2016 to the age of 12. But along the way, her and I found running together to be an amazing way for father and daughter to spend time, and eventually daughters running together, and even my son at a young age of 4 on rollerblades running or rollerblading next to his sister. And that is how Ainsley's Angels ultimately became reality. In 2011, we were getting ready to do the Marine Corps marathon together, Ainsley and I. Big deal because it's a big race. It'd be our first marathon, and as a Marine, it only made sense for us to do that race. But it was during the preparation for that conversations were had, and my sister and I got into discussions about how can we actually formalize what we're doing here. And that's when the 501c3 was established in Louisiana and then nationally. And today we're 40,000 people across the country active in hundreds of communities. And I'll pause because you probably have some questions.
Well, how about this? When we get back with you, Rooster, I want to find out all about Ainsley's Angels mission. Stay with me.
At Atlanta Swim Academy, we offer a free baby splash class, ages 3 to 5 months, for amazing parent-child bonding, socialization, water acclimation, and cognitive development opportunity. We are the Atlanta Swim Academy.
Welcome back to Life with the Spectrum. I'm your host, Gina Cavalli. With me today, Rooster, the founder and president of Ainsley's Angels. Now, tell me about the runs, the chariots that are built, and the history behind them.
Yeah, so much history and so many places we could take that answer to your question. I really want to start with, at its most simplistic state, is the smiles, the sense of belonging. And this is what we experienced immediately when Ainsley felt the wind blowing in her hair, in her face, the sensory integration experience, unable to talk and unable to walk, much less become a marathoner and communicate with many ways through a smile, through just excitement. These are the things that really found running to be such a magnet, such a force to bring us together. And then as time went on, we got this sense of like, we belong here. Like, we are runners. We are part of this community, and the running community is so amazing that way. And that's ultimately what led us to think, how can we spread this far and wide? To use a business model example, how do you scale this? But how do you scale this in a way that's sustainable? Because what is this? This is belonging. You can't sell belonging. But what are the critical factors that can contribute to achieving belonging in the running community for those with disabilities? And the answer,
the bonding between parent and child, or someone else and their child.
Absolutely. And what we found to be the case is sibling bonding, parent bonding with their kids. We've even had situations where spouses have bonded through this experience due to the late age diagnosis. We've seen triple great grandfathers run with their triple great grandsons to do the final run of their lives together. And this is all made possible by the right equipment. The accessibility, which is critical, is these chariots that you mentioned. And they're made in a couple of different places across the country. We've partnered with these entities. And today we've granted over almost 1,500 of these chairs to people to use in these races, which we're so very proud of that. But when we're not granting a chair to a couple or a family or someone to use, we are maintaining inventory of these chariots in the hundreds of communities we serve where Ainsley's Angels is active. And then we communicate with the race director. We pair up, because it doesn't have to be a family member. I need to make that clear. Not only is
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, not only is it just for kids. No, it's not just for kids. It's for everyone. And you don't need your dad to push you. We have plenty of runners who want to run for something bigger than themselves. And those runners are part of our angel runner community, and we pair them with the riders.
So what do you like, just roll up to a marathon with an 18-wheeler and start unloading chariots? Like, what does that look like?
In the most simplistic way, what you just said, the answer is yes.
Awesome.
But of course, there's a lot of factors that go into it. You have to coordinate with the race director, establish rapport. I mean, there was a time where some of these races were actually saying, no, it's not in accordance with our insurance policy, or it's unsafe. And so rather than becoming upset about that and making a big to-do and threatening to go to the media, we've chosen to leverage education and to have conversation and to explain the details. And in some cases, ask for a proof of concept opportunity, where maybe one rider and a runner or two can go and show you how this is done. And that has led to relationships growing over the past 12 years, to going from one proof of concept team to now over dozens, and in some cases multiple dozens of teams lining up. And so we'll show up with the chairs in a trailer, greet the riders, pair them with the runners. They'll go out, we'll go to the start together, we'll execute the race, then we'll take the chairs back, put them in the trailer, and on to the next race.
Off to the next.
So roughly this happens about 750 to 1,000 times a year across the country in communities near your listeners.
Wow, so you are always on the move then.
I am, but we've built this in such a way where we have local volunteers in these hundreds of communities who are armed and educated to become advocates who can set the conditions locally to execute. So I don't have to go to all of these races. In fact, if we're doing 750 to 1,000 a year, I'm probably only at about 20 of those, because there's only 52 weeks in a year now.
Right. With me today, Rooster, the founder and president of Ainsley's Angels. When we get back, we're going to find out a little bit more about where these local races end up popping up and if there's one closer to home, and also find out where we can find Ainsley's Angels online. Stay with me. Welcome back to Life with the Spectrum. I'm your host, Gina Cavalli. With me today, Rooster, the president and founder of Ainsley's Angels. I love the story. I mean, it's heartbreaking and heartwarming all at the same time as a parent to a child with special needs. And I know that many special needs children have multiple diagnoses with that. What's the one thing that you would give hope to a parent? either in your particular predicament with Ainsley, and now I'm sure those 7 cases are now have expanded as we continue to grow in the world. 7 might turn into 12 or 24. Do you know how many cases of INAT are there?
I think the last number I saw was somewhere around 40 in America,
Yeah.
and maybe an equal number globally. So it's still under 100 to my knowledge. But, I do want to take your question and tie that into my answer. You said, what type of hope can we offer? While I don't know, there's a reason why I don't know exactly how many folks have INAT today. And the reason is that my wife and I chose to focus on the quality of life in front of us, to make her life as enjoyable as it could be. And that's not to say that it's a bad idea to look for a cure or to get involved in the clinical research process of a diagnosis. I'm not saying that's a bad idea.
Sure.
But we found that by focusing on Ainsley and her quality of life and finding something we could do together to bond, to grow our relationship, and to have moments we cherish forever, that we found so much more energy in focusing on people, the us, the here, the now. And so the hope I offer to the listener who maybe recently got a terminal diagnosis or is unsure about the future and guardianship when they turn over 18, or how are we going to navigate, the rules and regulations and care and continuity of care, just take a deep breath and examine the situation for what it can be. It can be an opportunity to really create memories that will last forever, as opposed to heartache with medical situations and planning for this and plan. You can still do all the things to prepare for the future, but please take some time now to cherish what's right in front of us.
Ainsley is with you every day. You are doing this mission on Ainsley's behalf. Where can people find you? Where can people find out more about these chariots? Where can people find out where their local races are, where you pull up with these chariots in a trailer?
Yeah. Ainsley'sAngels.org is the website, which would be the central point for where you can find everything. And if you're like, what is he saying? He's saying Ainsley, AINSLEYS, Angels, all one word.org. We're also in all the social media places, YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. And we do that at a national scale. And then what we've done is identified local representatives who are volunteers that we vet and then we educate so that they can be our eyes, ears, and executors on the ground in these hundreds of communities across the country. So if you go to Ainsley'sAngels.org and click on locations, you can see if we're near you. And if we're not near you and you're moved and you want to bring this program to your community, it's as simple as sending an email to info@Ainsley'sAngels.org to learn a little bit more about the process. On the chariot side, again, if we're in your community, we provide the chariots on race day. But if we're not in your community, or if we are in your community and you want your own chair, all of these are on the website as well. You can go to shop and then chariots, and they'll be right there in front of you. They're often on sale. I like to say that this is the cheapest place to include Amazon that you can find these chariots, the Freedom, the Phoenix, and the Axiom Racer. We make it a point to make them affordable because accessibility isn't just always physical. Accessibility also has to be in the world of financially supportable. So some folks don't have the means to purchase the chairs. We also have some fundraising programs we've started. And that's how we've been able to grant, almost 1,500 of these chairs to families across the country.
So many people forget about fundraising. They really do, Rooster. You can fundraise for just about everything. I know a lot of friends that fundraise to get service dogs because the cost of service dogs can be upwards of $20,000. So they really reaching out to your friends and family, believe it or not, $20, $50, $10, $1. It goes a long, long way in the grand scheme of things.
It really does. And I want to say to that really fast, as a 501c3, your donations that you make to us, we internally earmark them for your loved ones to get the chariots. So we're not doing like GoFundMe where money's going to a personal bank account. No, every penny is accounted for. That's number one, so we can work with you on that. The other piece is, I remember numerous times where family and friends wanted to help with Ainsley. Well, the Marine Corps had us in Virginia. Our family's in Louisiana. They couldn't help, per se, in the physical. But when we wanted to get her one of these chairs, family and friends jumped at the opportunity to make small donations to make it happen. This is the thing that we as parents of those with special needs often will not feel comfortable soliciting from our family, but it's our family who want opportunities to help. But then we, the people who are parents of those with special needs, say, we don't need the help. Leave humility, right? Get some humility, drop the ego at the door, and just float the link out there. Let people decide if they want to contribute to the freedom of mobility for your loved one. Anyway, I sound very dictator-like with this, but I believe in it.
I agree with you. Ainsley'sAngels.org. Make the donation if you want one of these chariots. And if you want to find a race, make sure you click on the Georgia location and we can get you in touch with Scooter. Thank you so much, Rooster, for being on the show.
Yeah, my privilege as a podcast host myself of the Together We Shall podcast. I know the work that goes into lining up guests and to doing the editing and to making this happen. So, Gina, I thank you for the invitation, and I thank you for continuing to be a voice for many of us and bringing resources to so many people across the country. So thank you.
Sounds like we have another podcast to check out called Together We Shall. You can look for Rooster and all of his amazing guests and just words of wisdom. You know, I can only imagine losing a child, what that grief looks like, what that whole process looks like. And it's something I don't think any parent ever imagines having to go through. So Together We Shall. We'll have to look for that. And look for Ainsley's Angels at Ainsley'sAngels.org if you're interested in not only just getting a chariot, but also finding a race that's near to you wherever you live. There's 750 races. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're all over the place. Thank you so much for checking out Life with the Spectrum and coming back week after week, finding interesting people and their stories and the differences that they're really making. It's what this show is really all about. In the core of it, it's really all about finding that support within the communities in which you live. And so with that, if you know somebody I need to be speaking to in your community, make sure to reach out, comment below. You can also send me an email, gina@gcast.com. That's GKASTS.com. As we continue to live this crazy journey called life, I appreciate you checking out Life with the Spectrum. See ya.
Bye.